to the committee. You can see that committee hearing underway right now on our companion network C-SPAN 3. We will also take your phone calls at the conclusion of the hearing. And now live to the House floor.
The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered today by our guest chaplain, Reverend Richard Haynes, Salem Missionary Baptist Church, Little Bern, Georgia.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for a brand new day, and for all the opportunities and possibilities that come with this day. We thank you for another opportunity to be better. Thank you for the blessed opportunity to do better. We thank you for yet another chance to correct mistakes and make critical legislative adjustments for the betterment of this country and the world. With a heart of gratitude for the many possibilities that this day brings, we declare with the psalmist David that we will rejoice and be glad in it. May our rejoicings manifest themselves in good works, that others may see and that you may be glorified. In the name of your darling Son, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The Chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Woodall.
Allegiance to the flag.
Without objection, the gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 1 minute.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House is fortunate today to have Reverend Dr. Richard Benjamin Hayes as our guest chaplain. You know, he's a lifelong servant of the Lord, growing up as the son of a Baptist minister. He now pastors Salem Missionary Baptist Church in my home county of Gwinnett. He's an avid angler, a fisherman, but first and foremost, he's a fisher of men. In the 23-plus years that he's led Salem Missionary Baptist, that church has grown from 100 to 4,500 in that congregation. Beyond the pulpit, Reverend Haynes is active throughout our community. He's been past chaplain of the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Department, director of the statewide Ministers Convention, and currently Gwinnett County Board of Education Advisory Board, to name just a few. I'm honored to have him in Washington, D.C. with me today. His wife, Beverly, is with us today, as is his daughter, Sheena, and his two grandsons, Benjamin and Bashan. Reverend, thank you for your prayer today. Thank you for your ministry every day. And I yield back my time.
The chair will entertain 15 further requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, the Bureau of Labor Statistics announced yesterday that the number of job openings is at its lowest point in 5 months. The number of available jobs dropped from 3.7 million in March to 3.4 million in April. This fact shows that the President's failed policies are destroying jobs across our nation and undermining families. Unemployment has been above 8% for 40 months, not including the millions who are underemployed or who have lost hope and no longer looking for a job. Yet the President still believes our private sector is doing fine. In fact, sadly, now the President is offering work permits to illegal aliens to take jobs from hard-working Americans. It's past time for the President and his liberal colleagues in the other chamber to pass the dozens of bipartisan job creation bills which are stalled in the Senate graveyard. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from New York rise? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Did any of you wake up to a nice bowl of cereal this morning or an instant breakfast drink like I did? Did you give any thought to the effort that went into bringing that fresh, wholesome milk to your table? Well, I sure do. Just this past week, I was visiting the Kerner Farm in Wyoming County, the largest dairy-producing county in New York State, which is the 4th largest producer in this great country. But I didn't go just to have their milk. I went to listen to their concerns. And I saw a mother, father, brother, sister getting up before any of us see the light of day to do their work. Tremendously hard work, but there's a lot of pride in what they do. So as we proudly salute the millions of families across this country, in particular the dairy farming families, during National Dairy Month, we do need to do more for these stewards of our national food security. We can give out proclamations and pay lip service to the 51,000 families across this nation who supply us with these products, or we can actually listen to them and do something to help. First of all, they want a farm bill. They want certainty to know what the deal is going to be, not later this year, but right now. Secondly, they need labor. That's the #1 issue I hear when I'm visiting the Nobles, the other family farmers, the Zubers, the Coins. Let's give them what they need. Thank you very much. I yield back the balance of my time.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join with many others in the greater Chicago area in recognizing the life and recent passing of a tremendously respected, selfless and inspirational leader in our community, Richard Schoenstatt. Richard no doubt made a difference in this world with his tireless dedication to strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationship. His sweeping passion for and energy for pro-Israel advocacy set a very high bar
which both elevated and advanced the commitment of so many good people to pro-Israel causes. Richard believed in engagement and activism, and he lived his life knowing that there was only one way to do things, the right way. He served his community as an outstanding example of leadership and earned a reputation as brilliant and committed mentor to many, many people. Like so many who were lucky to know him, I feel I was given a special gift in Richard's friendship. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family, certainly his wife Cindy, his daughters Carly and Kate, and the entire extended Schoenstatt family. May his memory continue to inspire us all to action, and may we in this Congress now and forever remain dedicated to advancing the principles that Richard Schoenstatt so proudly stood and fought for throughout his life.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, access to affordable higher education is one of the reasons that our country is so great. As someone who lives in the gateway to America, I have seen firsthand the transformational power of education. However, access to higher education is now being threatened. In less than 2 weeks, the interest rate for student loans is scheduled to double, from 3.4 to 6.8%. This will make it extremely burdensome for students and families with limited financial resources to attend college. Just in the past 10 years, college tuition has increased 28%. Middle-class families are struggling to send their sons and daughters to school. For many Americans, a college education is essential to future success. Over a lifetime, it is estimated that a college graduate makes an average of $2.27 million. In contrast, those with only a high school diploma are estimated to make $1.3 million. The clock is ticking, and we must act now. Congress should not block access to affordable education. Let us work together to keep student loans interest rates low. And I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from West Virginia rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the state of West Virginia is celebrating its 149th birthday today. Celebrations are being held as we speak throughout the state. I'm a proud 7th-generation West Virginian, honored to serve the state that I love. Being a West Virginian comes with great honor, tradition, and pride. In concert with the restored state of Virginia, President Lincoln on April 20th, 1863, proclaimed that West Virginia could be admitted to the United States as a separate state. 60 days later, on June 20th, 1863, West Virginia became a member of the Union, the only state created during the war between the states. Every year, millions of people travel across our country roads of our great state and view the beautiful scenic mountains from the Shenandoah River to everything in between. Madam Speaker, I hope everyone enjoys this time-honored tradition of West Virginia Day and celebrates our wild and wonderful state. Happy birthday, West Virginia. Now yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from California rise? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized.
"30 years ago, Vincent Chin, a young Chinese-American engineer, was celebrating his impending wedding in Detroit, Michigan, when 2 unemployed auto workers started shouting at him, saying, "It is you Japanese who are taking away our jobs." They chased him down and bashed his head in with a baseball bat. Vincent's murderers were only punished with a $3,000 fine and got off without even spending a day in jail. In the meanwhile, instead of going to his wedding, Vincent's family went to his funeral. This injustice led to the emergence of a national Asian Pacific American identity and movement. This week, as chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, I will be introducing a resolution on the significance of the 30th anniversary of Vincent's death. His story remains an important reminder of why we must always combat the dangers of xenophobia and scapegoating. Thank you.
The gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Most of us just returned from a week talking with our constituents back home. In the 3rd District of Texas, folks only had one thing on their mind: the President's disgraceful decision to grant amnesty to 1 million illegal immigrants. Americans across the country are outraged. Amnesty rewards people for breaking our laws and encourages others to do the same. Entry into the United States is not a right, it's a privilege. Since taking office, the President has time and again taken reprehensible steps that weaken our border security and undermine the rule of law in America. By sidestepping Congress, the President is now single-handedly rewriting our immigration policies, violating the trust between the Congress and the President to uphold the laws of this land. Just did it again today. Enough is enough. This administration needs to stop putting politics ahead of the rights and privileges granted to him in the Constitution. Yield back.
The Chair will remind members to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the President. For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island rise?
I ask unanimous consent, Madam Speaker, to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to honor Devin Beck, a native of Tiverton in my home state of Rhode Island. Devin set a goal to raise $2,000 for Executives Without Borders, a nonprofit organization that works to engage business professionals in solving humanitarian challenges across the world. So on January 11th of this year, Devin left St. Augustine, Florida, with the goal of cycling to San Diego, California, a destination more than 2,000 miles away. On February 25th, 46 days later, Devin arrived in San Diego, completing a journey that spanned 232 hours, 17 minutes, and 44 seconds on his bike. In the end, Devin exceeded his goals and raised $6,000 for Executive Without Borders to benefit a program that is helping Haiti to build new recycling centers to recover from the devastating earthquake it suffered in 2010. I congratulate this young man, Devin, as well as his parents, Donald and Kathleen, on his truly impressive accomplishments and wish him continued success. I yield back the balance of
the gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Madam Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute. Revised next.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, on June 4th, America's Natural Gas Alliance issued a report contesting the EPA's recent study on greenhouse gas emissions and natural gas development. Specifically, the study found that methane emissions from shale operations are 86% lower than EPA estimated. Further, methane doesn't remain in the atmosphere for long relative to other gases. Unfortunately, some energy alternatives receiving government subsidies have worse emissions than what we thought. The new book, Green Illusions, by Ozzie Zahner, shows that building solar cells releases substantial quantities of emissions like sulfur hexafluoride, which last 267 times as long in the atmosphere, and they've nearly doubled since 1998. According to a May report from the International Energy Agency, U.S. carbon emissions are down more than any other country. In fact, since 2006, U.S. emissions have fallen 7.7%, with the increased use of shale gas as a key factor in the drop, according to the agency's chief economist. This leads to a conclusion that many might find paradoxical. If global warming is a problem we need to address, then we should welcome the increased production and use of natural gas as a prime energy source. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, in these tough times, we should make every effort to increase access to higher education for all Americans. Making college more affordable doesn't just help students, it straightens our economy. Unfortunately, if Congress does not act soon, interest rates on student loans will double over 7 million students in less than 2 weeks. July 1st is around the corner. It's time for a serious solution to help our nation's children. Instead of working towards a compromise, Republicans have put forward a plan to cut health services for women and children. Republicans just don't get it. Once again, they're too busy cutting taxes for millionaires and billionaires instead of working for our middle class. Republicans are showing their priorities are out of touch with hard-working Americans. We need to act now on student loans. Let's help all of these students have access to education. I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Illinois seek recognition? Yes, ma'am. Consent to address the House for 1 minute. Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to salute the hard-working individuals who strive every day to protect the safety of air passengers. These are the men and women of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, NATCA, who yesterday celebrated their 25th year as the guardians of the U.S. National Airspace System. On June 19, 1987, the Federal Labor Relations Authority certified NATCA as the exclusive bargaining representative for the Federal Aviation Administration air traffic controllers. NATCA now represents more than 20,000 air traffic controllers, engineers, and other aviation safety professionals. They have the safest record in history, guiding 70,000 flights per day and protecting over 700 million passengers per year. Madam Speaker, I would ask all of my colleagues in the House today to join NATCA in celebrating a quarter-century of hard work keeping America's airspace system the safest in the world. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the Great Lakes are our most threatened national assets, yet they are the largest source of fresh water in the world and account for $7 billion in economic activity annually. In my Western New York community, the resurgence of our inner and outer harbors along Lake Erie is an important reminder of the relationship between the health of the Great Lakes and our region's economic future. The State Department is finalizing a revision to the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement with Canada. This important agreement expresses a joint commitment to protecting and restoring the Great Lakes ecosystem. Mr. Speaker, I recently joined my congressional colleagues in the Great Lakes region in asking the State Department for the status of this agreement and have offered to host a signing ceremony between the United States and Canada in Buffalo, New York. It is more important than ever before to affirm our commitment to protecting the health of the Great Lakes. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Washington seek recognition?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's with a heavy heart today that I rise to honor the life of First Lieutenant Matthew Fazzari. He is a 25-year-old American hero. He's a native of Walla Walla, Washington. He graduated from Gonzaga University, commissioned in the United States Army, was a member of the prestigious 82nd Airborne, and he gave his life in serving and defending our country. He lost his life on June 6, 2012, when a helicopter was shot down by enemy attack in Afghanistan. He lost his life in the name of Americans' freedom. And he lost his life to protect all of ours. He leaves behind a community who admires him, a country who pays homage to him, and a family who's been forever changed by him. He was a son, a brother, a husband, and a father. He says goodbye to a family that got the call. They hoped they would never. And Madam Speaker, I thank you for this time. We mourn his loss, we celebrate his life, and I yield back.
We thank the gentlelady for yielding back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Missouri seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand here today frustrated but determined. Frustrated because I've heard from so many people in St. Louis, Missouri that I represent, small business owners, veterans, students, and others. They're all saying the same thing. Put me to work. They want to help rebuild our economy. They want to help create new American jobs. They're not saying, kill me a sea lion. They're not saying, allow corporations to pollute my air and water. They're not saying, give more breaks for the well-off Americans and more burdens for seniors. They're saying, put me to work. They are determined, and so am I. So I say to you, put Congress to work. Put us to work passing the student loan interest rate extension to protect students who are graduating into an unstable marketplace. Put us to work passing the Senate transportation bill that passed overwhelmingly with bipartisan support and would create thousands of jobs. Put us to work passing the Startup Act to create new opportunities for American innovation. Listen to our constituents. They want to go to work. They are cheering for our country to succeed and to work, and they expect and deserve their Congress to do the same. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Tennessee seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized.
Madam Speaker, the President recently said that the private sector is doing just fine. But for millions of unemployed and underemployed Americans, and millions more struggling with higher food and energy prices, there is nothing fine about the state of the U.S. economy. That's why the House has passed more than a dozen bipartisan bills. And this week, the House will consider the Domestic Energy and Jobs Act. This package of domestic energy production bills, of which I am a co-sponsor, will not only reduce energy costs for hard-working families and small businesses, but it will also get government out of the way so that American job creators can do what they do best. That is, grow the economy and put people back to work. Madam Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today this House takes up the cynically named Domestic Energy and Jobs Act, which is the latest Republican installment in their mad dash to allow polluters to dump garbage and poison into our air and water. If I had more time, I would point out that this bill would gut the Clean Air Act, which was signed into law in the early 1970s by a Republican president before that party abandoned the value that we should be stewards of our environment. I would talk about my daughter, who suffers from asthma. That asthma and the asthma of millions of other young people will get worse if this bill becomes law. And I would point out that the idea that this is about jobs is baloney. And I would cite the Bureau of Labor Statistics study in 2010 that said that 1/3 of 1% of jobs and layoffs were because of government regulation. Instead, I have a question. What happened to personal responsibility? What happened to the idea that we clean up our own mess? Madam Speaker, why are we asking the entire American public to pay the cost of polluting our air and water? That I don't understand. And I yield back the balance.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from North Carolina seek recognition?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute, Madam Speaker.
The gentlelady is recognized for a minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Summer is upon us. Traditionally, this is the season when Americans pack the family car to head out for a well-deserved vacation. Unfortunately, this year, many will not be able to do this because gas prices are too high due to the failed economic and energy policies of this administration and lack of action from the Senate. House Republicans have crafted and passed many bipartisan bills to address this issue, but Senate intransigence has prevented them from moving forward to provide relief to the people we represent. Today, House Republicans will offer another solution, H.R. 4480, the Domestic Energy and Jobs Act. This legislation promotes job creation and addresses the high energy costs which are burdening so many families and small businesses across America. Madam Speaker, the May Jobs Report and the high cost of energy demand immediate action. House Republicans are answering the call from Americans with this act. I urge my colleagues to support this very important legislation. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute, unanimous consent.
Without objection, the gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Speaker, the Constitution is an enormously important document. The oversight of Congress is an enormously important responsibility. Lives lost in the course of various activities of our law enforcement are issues that we take with great concern. As a member of the Judiciary Committee, it has been my responsibility over the years, from impeachments to Waco to issues beyond, to look deep into the facts, and I respect that. I'm appalled, however, when the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States is called a liar. And I stand on this floor to reject any thought that a United States attorney that takes an oath of office would lie. We can find a resolution to the facts of Fast and Furious that have been reinvestigated and reinvestigated, started under the Bush administration. But we do not have to malign General Holder for doing his job. And I would ask this Congress to ultimately reject any contempt charge against the Chief Law Enforcement Officer.
The
and to
gentlelady's
denounce
time has
lying.
expired.
I yield
For what
back.
purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, Obamacare has not taken full effect yet, but it is already crippling our country and our economy. Premiums are rising. Businesses are shedding jobs. Doctors and patients are constantly dealing with a third party making health care decisions, and that's the federal government. Fortunately, the Supreme Court has some of these same concerns about Obamacare, and hopefully they will strike down both the individual mandate and the entire law. However the court rules, though, Obamacare must go. In the GOP Doctors Caucus, we know that the American health care system needs some serious surgery. We have brought forth many ideas to do just that. For example, my Patient Option Act will revitalize American health care, not through government interference, but by giving doctors and patients full control over their dollars and their decisions. When Obamacare falls, my bill stands ready to provide health care relief for Americans both want and need. I hope my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will look to the Option Act as an example of what real reform looks like.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California seek recognition?
Unanimous consent to address the House.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I grew up in Los Angeles in the 50s when the smog was so bad that we actually had to stay inside the classroom during recess. And when you tried to inhale deeply, the pain in your chest was so severe from the pollution and the smog. But thanks to government intervention, we have made huge strides, not only in Los Angeles, but throughout this country, in cleaning our air for the health of our children. We've made progress, but we need to make a lot more. And unfortunately, to continue to combat this problem, Congress should take bold steps to invest in clean energy technology, including new electric vehicles and the infrastructure to charge them. But with H.R. 4480, my Republican friends are denying not only Los Angeles, but all cities in this country the tools they need to continue to improve our air and improve our health. This bill would rob the EPA of the ability to effectively enforce clean air laws and deepen our dependency on dirty fossil fuels. Thank you. I yield back the balance.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Maryland, for what purpose does he seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is so recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, tomorrow is the 15th Annual Congressional Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Expo and Forum from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. in the Cannon Caucus Room as well as Room 340 Cannon. It features more than 50 exhibitors, including 6 from Maryland, and 30 speakers, including members of Congress, the executive branch, and private sector. Come and learn the present status and near-term potential of how the cross-section of renewable energy, that is biofuels, biomass, geothermal, solar, water, wind, and energy efficiency technologies are creating jobs and meeting 11.7% of domestic U.S. energy production and 12.7% of net U.S. electrical generation. I encourage members, staff, and visitors to attend tomorrow's 15th Annual Congressional Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Expo and Forum. Thank you.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California seek recognition? The gentlelady is so recognized.
Madam Speaker, Justice Brandeis said that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And sadly, in Citizens United, the Roberts Court has turned its back on this wisdom, and it's given corporations the power to influence our government from the shadows. To say that these are not dark days for our democracy is not an understatement. Millions upon millions of dollars are flowing into our political system through super PACs, but the identity of the donors that supply this money remains hidden. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking that the identities of these donors is a secret to the politicians whose campaigns are being helped by their money. To ignore the potential for unseemly influence here is truly naive. When one donor can decide the fate of a legislator's re-election, they clearly wield a great deal of power. We should come together to pass the Disclose Act, which allows the public to see who is making these mega donations. And together, we can let some sunlight back into our democracy.
The gentlelady's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and advise to extend my
The gentleman is so recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Since 1982, the Congressional Art Competition has recognized the special power that arts have in our nation's classrooms. Today, I have the pleasure of recognizing my district's art competition winner, Sarah Fanucchi, who credits the arts for helping her overcome her learning challenges. From an early age, Sarah struggled with reading and math, but she excelled with a sketchbook and a pencil in hand. Once her teachers at Bakersfield South High tapped into that talent, Sarah's life changed. She became excited about school and her grades improved. Sarah's mother, Carrie, said, art was, and I suspect always will be, her refuge. It was her place to begin to shine and her place in school to belong. Carrie and Sarah are more than mother and daughter. They are best friends. As I welcome her and her family to Washington this week, I applaud Sarah's artistic feat. But more importantly, her perseverance through her challenges is what I find most impressive about this young lady. The art and life she has curated is something any parent or teacher can and should be proud of as she continues to add value to our nation's fabric. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, by the direction of the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 691 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 138, House Resolution 691. Resolved that at any time after the adoption of this resolution, the Speaker may, pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 18, declare the House resolved into the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for consideration of the bill H.R. 4480 to provide for the development of a plan to increase oil and gas exploration, development, and production under oil and gas leases of federal lands under the jurisdiction of the Secretary of Agriculture, the Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of the Interior, and the Secretary of Defense in response to a drawdown of petroleum reserves from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The first reading of the bill shall be dispensed with. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. General debate shall be confined to the bill and amendments specified in this resolution and shall not exceed 2 hours, equally divided among and controlled by the Chair and Ranking Minority Member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce and the Chair and Ranking Minority Member of the Committee on Natural Resources. After general debate, the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. In lieu of the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Energy and Commerce now printed in the bill, it shall be in order to consider as an original bill for the purpose of amendment under the 5-minute rule, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of the Rules Committee print 112-24. That amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be considered as read. All points of order against that amendment in the nature of a substitute are waived. No amendment to that amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be in order except those printed in the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution. Each such amendment may be offered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, shall not be subject to amendment, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. All points of order against such amendments are waived. At the conclusion of consideration of the bill for amendment, the committee shall rise and report the bill to the House with such amendments as may have been adopted. Any member may demand a separate vote in the House on any amendment adopted in the Committee of the Whole to the bill or to the amendment in the nature of a substitute made in order as original text. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill and amendments thereto to final passage without intervening motion, except one motion to recommit with or without instructions.
The gentleman from Utah is recognized for 1 hour.
Madam Speaker, for the purposes of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Colorado's Polis, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purpose of debate only. I ask that all members have 5 legislative days during which they may revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
All right, this resolution provides for a structured rule for the consideration of H.R. 4480, the Strategic Energy Production Act of 2012, and it makes in order 27 individual amendments that are specified under the rule, 2/3 of which are Democrat amendments. The rule provides for 2 hours of general debate, equally divided and controlled by the chairman and ranking minority member of both the Committee on Energy and Commerce as well as the Committee on Natural Resources. So this structured rule is very fair, and it will provide for a balanced and open debate on the merits of the bill. Madam Speaker, I'm actually pleased to stand before the House today in the support of this rule as well as the underlying legislation, H.R. 4480. The lead sponsor of this legislation, the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Gardner, is to be commended for his hard work and his leadership in putting this piece of legislation together. I also commend the chairman of both the Energy and Commerce Committee and the Natural Resources Committees for their support, their hard work, as well on this particular act, as well as other important pieces of legislation aimed at making our nation more energy independent. Madam Speaker, this bill is yet another reminder that this administration is not doing enough to develop our own domestic energy resources, which are plentiful in many parts of our public lands. My home state of Utah, for example, there are vast amounts of oil and oil shale reserves that remain untapped, largely due to special interest group politics that keeps these lands locked up even as we go abroad and increase our dependence on foreign sources as well as increasing our trade deficit. Energy is an absolute prerequisite to our economic engine and creates jobs. If this administration ever hopes to get unemployment down during its tenure, then helping to develop more energy, domestic energy, is the key. This bill, H.R. 4480, stands for a very common-sense proposition. Proposition is that whenever the President of the United States authorizes a release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the Secretary of Energy will be required to develop a plan to increase the percentage of federal land oil production by a commensurate percentage to that was released from the reserve. The reserve is a reserve, reserved for emergencies. Fortunately, this administration is using our reserve to accommodate common daily life. It is important, and this purpose of this legislation is, number one, to develop our resources. Number two, to make sure that we can streamline the process so we do not delay the development of our resources. Number three, to keep the reserve for real emergencies. Number four, organize a plan to make sure that will be in effect. And five, recognize clearly that energy is needed for job creation. Without that energy, we will not create the jobs that are necessary for this country to move forward. This bill would actually limit the total amount of federal lands to be leased only 10% of the total of all public lands. 10% is very reasonable. The bill also excludes national parks, obviously, and federally, congressionally designated wilderness areas from consideration of this bill as well. So it's a good bill. It's a common sense bill that when passed will be a key part of our effective, comprehensive national energy strategy. I urge adoption of the rule, which is a fair rule, and the underlying bill, which is a common-sense bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Utah reserves, and the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to the rule and the underlying bill, H.R. 4480. The so-called Domestic Energy and Jobs Act, what is really a death and destruction act, an act that will directly lead to the death of American citizens from various health-related causes, including cancer, and destruction not only of our environment but of our quality of life, including our quality of life in my home state of Colorado that is such an important part of driving our economy forward and creating jobs. Here we are where several controversial, highly partisan bills have been packaged together, 7 bills, but while there is an attempt to dress this up as a jobs package, it's really a wish list for the oil industry that has no chance of becoming law, a huge giveaway to the oil industry at the expense of the health of American families, the health of our environment, and our enjoyment and recreational opportunities and economic opportunities on public lands. Instead of allowing improvements to this drastic death and destruction bill, the House majority has blocked many amendments offered by Republicans and Democrats alike. Under this restrictive rule, common-sense amendments were blocked, including an amendment I offered that would have directed a study on the impacts of oil shale development on agricultural and municipal water usage. My colleague from Arizona, Representative Napolitano, offered a similar amendment in committee. And those of us in the West, where farmers, ranchers, and community leaders consistently keep us abreast of water issues, and water is our most precious resource, know that we need some common sense and objective data with regard to how energy production impacts resources, particularly our most precious resource, water. What lies at the heart of this death and destruction bill today is simply a false premise. It's the false premise that somehow the United States is failing to make good on its natural energy resources. Now, the fact is, as a result of President Obama's all-of-the-above energy strategy, our nation's dependence on foreign oil has fallen drastically, and crude oil production in the United States is at an 8-year high. President Obama has increased production of crude oil substantially over the Bush administration lows. The President's policies are demonstrating that we can have an approach to energy in the United States that boosts oil and gas production and invests in the next generation of cleaner, job-creating, renewable energy technologies such as wind, solar, and geothermal. Now, in contrast to the President's all-of-the-above approach, which will lead to reductions in gas prices and a sustainable energy future for our country, this death and destruction bill before us today is an oil-above-all approach. This death and destruction bill hands public lands that we all value over to the oil and gas industry and undermines the laws and rules that have made our air and water cleaner and safer over the past 40 years. One of the scariest provisions in this package would gut important health-based standards provided for in the Clean Air Act established on a bipartisan basis in 1970. Now, the Clean Air Act-based standards are especially important for protecting children, the elderly, and others who are susceptible to harmful air pollution. Many nonpartisan public health and medical organizations have recognized that this bill would override clean air standards that have protected American people and families from harmful pollution in the past 40 years. That's why on this bill, which the majority purports deals with energy, we've heard from pediatricians, we've heard from doctors, we've heard from health care providers that this would lead to death as well as the destruction of jobs, as well as the destruction of our environment and recreational opportunities. Another controversial partisan provision in this bill would open up vast quantities of public lands to drilling. The bill sets an arbitrary requirement on the Department of Interior to offer oil companies at least 25% of onshore areas that industry nominates each year. So let me say that again. The Department of Interior wants to open up more lands to industry, even though oil and gas companies hold more than 25 million acres of public lands onshore where they're not producing oil and gas. In addition, these companies are sitting on 6,700 drilling permits that have been approved that they are not using. They need to explore lands where they already hold energy leases. Now, this is not a sensible energy policy. It's called an old-fashioned land grab and an old-fashioned water grab. They're coming after our land in the West, and they're coming after our water in the West, and we're not going to take it sitting down. Another extreme provision in this bill would overturn the Federal Land Policy and Management Act to elevate energy production above other public land uses. Now, my constituents in Colorado are tremendously concerned that somehow oil production would trump job-creating activities, including hunting, fishing, recreation, grazing, conservation. Mainstays of jobs in the economy in my district would be overridden in the name of oil, destroying jobs, destroying the health of Colorado families and families across the United States. Another provision in this bill turns the review of applications to drill into nothing more than a rubber stamp. The bill says if the Secretary of the Interior doesn't make a decision within 60 days, it's automatically approved with no process. At the same time, that many of the proponents of this bill are attempting to gut the budget of many of the agencies needing to review these applications, effectively ensuring that no application can properly be dealt with and evaluated within 60 days, and therefore they would all be automatically approved regardless of the impact on the health or on economic opportunities and jobs. Now, there's so many troubling provisions in this bill. Another one, and this one would likely violate our Constitution, which we began this session of Congress by reciting very publicly in this body. It would limit a citizen's right to participate in the discussion of leasing and drilling by making all dissenters pay a $5,000 fee. Now, imagine you're a Coloradan, an Arizonan, a Pennsylvanian, a Texan, who's concerned about drilling near your home or near your school or near your ranch. Now, under this death and destruction bill, opening your mouth would cost you $5,000. Free speech would no longer be free if this bill passes. Madam Speaker, public lands are just that, public. We all own a share of them. We all benefit from them. They're not the private playground of oil and gas companies. They're owned by all Americans, and all Americans should have a say in how they're used, not just Americans who cough up $5,000. While this bill would grant the oil and gas industry's wish list by opening up public lands and rolling back public health safeguards, hurting the health and killing American families, one thing this bill will not do is lower the price of gasoline. Economists agree. This bill has no impact on the price of gasoline. There's actually now more drilling rigs in operation in the United States, thanks to President Obama's leadership today, than the rest of the world combined. In addition, the number of drilling rigs has doubled since 2009. President Obama's leadership has doubled the number of drilling rigs since 2009. Now, research going back more than 3 decades show that there's very little correlation between the volume of domestic oil and the price of gasoline at the pump. Go ahead and tell the American people that we want oil and gas companies to drill anywhere they like, no regard to public health. Is that the message that we want to send? This bill, this death and destruction bill, would not only lead to the deaths of Americans, but would destroy jobs, destroy economic opportunities, destroy recreational opportunities. It's nothing short of a federal land grab and a federal water grab. And representing my constituents in Colorado, I encourage my colleagues to say heck no on both the bill as well as the rule, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Colorado reserves. The gentleman from Utah is recognized.
I am pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman whose home state has provided a program of death and destruction which has led to a 3% or less unemployment rate, jobs, and energy production. The gentleman from North Dakota, Mr. Berg.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for recognizing me today. And, Madam Speaker, I rise to support the underlying bill, the Domestic Energy and Jobs Act. In my home state of North Dakota, we're seeing unprecedented growth. At 3%, as it was mentioned, North Dakota has the lowest unemployment rate in the country. We have a nearly $2 billion budget surplus. We have stabilized our finances, and we've created certainty. And I couldn't be more proud of our state. A large part of our economic success is due to a comprehensive energy policy and a common-sense regulatory environment. This in North Dakota is known as Empower North Dakota. In North Dakota, we know that all energy production is good energy production. Rather than picking winners and losers in energy, this Empower Act creates a stable, business-friendly climate. It does this by encouraging all energy production. North Dakota embraces all energy production, natural resources capabilities across our state. In North Dakota, it's really proof that all the above really does work. And there's no reason why we should not be taking this proven approach to developing energy and domestic energy production and applying it nationwide. That's really the goal of this legislation that's being considered here in the House today. And I'm proud to offer my strong support of this legislation, and I encourage all of my colleagues to do the same by supporting this rule. With that, I yield back the remainder of my time.
The gentleman yields back the remainder of his time. The gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Florida, Ms. Castor.
The gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Colorado for yielding the time. Colleagues, I rise to oppose the rule in the underlying bill for 3 primary reasons. First, the package is very poor public policy. Second, I offered a common-sense amendment, and the Republican majority blocked it from being debated, so it will not be heard today, unfortunately. And third, the House of Representatives shouldn't be wasting its time on a package that's not going anywhere. Instead, we should be focused on job creation, especially passage of the transportation bill, where we could create thousands and thousands of jobs across the country. But first, as we marked up part of this package in the Energy and Commerce Committee, it became apparent that this package is chock full of detrimental policy decisions for America. It creates new bureaucracies when it comes to energy policy and undermines the nation's energy security. It rolls back policies that support the continued growth of safe and responsible energy production in the United States. And it improperly removes protections that we enjoy under the Clean Air Act that protect the health of American families all across this great nation. Second, if my colleagues recall, following the BP Deepwater Horizon blowout in the Gulf of Mexico, a major flaw in the law came to light, that the Department of Interior's maximum penalty for companies violating offshore drilling laws is limited to $40,000. And for a major onshore drilling violation, it's only $5,000. So these amounts are not enough of a deterrent for bad behavior. That's why I offered an amendment to give the Secretary of Interior the authority to increase civil fines against oil companies who violate the law while drilling. But unfortunately, my Republican colleagues have once again blocked sensible policy in order to protect big oil. The Deepwater Horizon disaster was a major economic blow to my home state of Florida. If our laws do not establish appropriate deterrents, then you put our jobs at risk. Our tourism industry, small businesses, restaurants, fishermen, and the military rely on clean water and clean beaches. And our laws should protect American families and businesses and not just big oil. Finally, I strongly disagree with the Republican majority's decision to block the transportation bill and the thousands and thousands of jobs that are dependent on it. The Republican inaction on a bill that passed the United States Senate in a bipartisan way with over 70 votes is being blocked here on the floor of the House, and people should be up in arms. At a time when we've got to make greater progress when it comes to putting people back to work, that's the best path forward. And I think the Republican inaction is causing great economic harm all across their country, and that is what we should be debating today. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Louisiana, a state that truly understands what it means to have an all-of-the-above policy for energy production and what energy means to job creation. Good gentleman, Dr. Bastani.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding time to me. The sad fact today is that this country does not have a coherent energy strategy, pure and simple. And I can tell you, I come from Louisiana, where we know firsthand, probably more than any other state, that good energy policy can march hand in hand with good economic policy and good environmental policy. We've lived that life. We know that the energy sector, American energy production, creates good-paying jobs. Many of these jobs go to people who have a family that's never had anyone attend college, and they've been able to pay for college for the next generation.
These are good-paying jobs, better paying than most. The first step in energy policy, the first step is, number one, don't punish your current energy production. Don't punish American energy production. And that's what we've seen from this administration. From 4 straight years of proposing high taxes, new taxes on independent small energy companies, small oil and gas companies, new taxes at a time when we ought to be developing our energy production makes no sense at all. Secondly, what's our transition strategy? We clearly have an abundance of oil and gas, new reserves, new technology. We have led the world in this. We ought to be developing it, and we can achieve energy security for this country and create good-paying American jobs. This administration proposed a moratorium on drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, and now, yes, they lifted the moratorium, but they still continue to slow walk the permits. This bill would go forward and help us to streamline that process so we can get American energy production back up online in the Gulf of Mexico and to develop our energy security needs. You know, we have the reserves. We have the opportunity. The American energy production sector, from upstream, midstream, downstream, is accountable for 6 million jobs in this country. And we can grow more jobs. We can grow more jobs beyond that, good-paying jobs, if we do this and meet our energy security needs. Bottom line is this. I would ask my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to take a look at that plaque up there near the ceiling just above the Speaker's chair. Read the first sentence. It says, "Let us develop the resources of our land." A quote from Daniel Webster. We should heed that advice. We should develop the resources of our land. Let's develop our American energy production in the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska. Let's develop it in the shale plays. Let's create jobs. Let's create a secure energy future for this country. And let's move this country forward. Madam Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from Utah reserves. The gentleman from Colorado is recognized.